What's my hair?
But you look beautiful.
Do I sound okay to you? Check out my microphone.
You did until just then.
Please, honey, please start record.
You like our first cute?
I love it. It's so professional.
Right?
I say we talk in a British accent.
Hello, Nigel. No.
Hello, Nigel, and welcome to Throwback Thursday Time.
So what qualities do you look for in a model?
Are you nervous?
I do have butterflies. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Of course you do. You're excited. Would you be opposed to me bringing up the undeniable chemistry you guys had on America's Next Top Model?
It's Throwback Thursday Time with April and Mercedes.
Welcome to Throwback Thursday Time. I'm your host, Mercedes Yvette.
And I'm your host, April Wilkner. Get ready to not only spill the tea, we bring in a real Brit to steep that tea and then drink that.
Throw it all over your face. Okay, he's coming on. You ready?
Yep.
Well, hello.
Hello there.
What are you rocking there, Nigel? Is that tonic and gin?
Well, gin and tonic, actually. But yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've last seen you both, and you guys look incredible. You've both done a lot of hosting. You've both done other TV shows. You've done other work. You've been in front of the camera now for, God knows, like over a decade, right? So we've all got so much experience. But then, we were all young, and that was part of the charm, I think, too. Right?
I think that's why so many fans love the show, because it was very gritty and real and raw, and I always get that. And I'm starting to have like millennials that are like, I'm watching your season now, I love you in April, and you were smooth, Nigel, so you didn't even look like a newbie.
I mean, you have been exceptionally busy and successful for the last 17 years. You were a 17-year veteran on America's Next Top Model. Then you went on to do The Face, top photographer. You have your own podcast, Shaken and Stirred. You're a New York Times best-selling author with Models of Influence. You have your own furniture line. And of course, you make time still to work with Make-A-Wish Foundation. Mercedes and I are just blown away with what you've accomplished in the last 2 decades. It's really inspiring. Yes. Round of applause.
We are very sweet. I think that certainly I've been very lucky, right? So I've had a lot of opportunity, and I think that, in many respects, when you're given a platform like I was with Top Model, the very first thing that you you realize is that people listen to you. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. People actually are paying attention to what I say. So what I say matters. So therefore, I should be very careful about what I say. And I should be, realizing that when I have an audience, to perhaps direct their attention to really important issues that are important to me and that potentially can make a difference. And that was one of the most gratifying and amazing things about being on the show like Top Model for me, was the platform it gave me. And you're absolutely right. It was Make-A-Wish. That was the organization that was really the turning point, the sort of pivot in my career, where I realized that if I could do anything, if I could have a career change, it would be to work completely for philanthropic organizations and showcase their mission through photography. But of course, it helps so much having a basis in entertainment and fashion, because then you have the audience, people are excited, and every now and then when you grab their attention, you can all of a sudden shift it and go, yes, but look at this.
You actually used your platform for a better reason, which is great. And we salute you. Cheers to that, Nigel. We're going to jump right into your throwback photo. Let's get it.
It was the finale party red carpet for Cycle 3. Yes.
Those were good times.
But you know what makes me sick is that your throwback photo, which was like, 15 years ago, maybe 14 years ago?
Yeah.
It looks like it could be on the red carpet now.
I know.
I was like, April, can you find something like really throwback? And we were like, no, this is too good. No, this is too good.
First of all, the 2000s is not that long ago, right? In the grand scheme of throwbacks. But also because I did something with because I cut my hair, right? Because I shaved my head. So that as soon as you shave your hair is a defining thing about you. And it's actually, when people ask me why I shave my head, that's one of the reasons why. It's because it's such a timely part of your look. It fits an era so specifically. So back then, one of the things I wanted to do was to remove that aspect so that I myself could be more classic and more kind of timeless, if you like. And that's what I was thinking about when I did it, because I stopped modeling and I became a photographer, and I didn't kind of want to be judged or have a look. I thought, what is not a look? What is something that looked exactly the same sort of in Stone Age times as it does today? And the one thing with a guy was to shave your head. So, I did it, and it's worked ever since. And my mother wishes I would grow my hair back, but I'm quite happy I don't,
I mean, it's genius in that way. What does your hair look like if you did grow it out?
Oh, well, there are a few pictures like that. I posted one just the other day, actually, which made people laugh. I got very thick hair. You can still see I have it. Mm-hmm. So it's really more of a, it's kind of long, thick, and dark and black. And I used to do a lot of commercials for hair products, back in the day. So I was known as a hair model, if you can believe it. So
you're making a lot of men jealous right now because they shave their heads because they are usually going bald. Since we're keeping with the theme of the 2000s, should we play a game, April?
I love games. Mercedes and I love games.
So excuse me for my horrible British accent, but we have to play a game called This or That Brit Fashion Edition.
This or that.
So, naughty tabloid Brit. Would you go with Kate Moss or Russell Brand?
Russell.
Yeah. He's really cheeky.
Okay.
Nice. So at the time in the 2000s, bracelets were really in, and people were either wearing the Lance Armstrong Live Strong, or you're like more of a rocker and you rock the like leather cuff. Which one were you?
I was a leather cuff.
Cell phones. Which ones were you rocking? The BlackBerry or the Sidekick?
I had a cell phone, but my cell phone wasn't definitely not a BlackBerry. I never had one of those ever. But I had one, that flipped open, one of those ones, like small little things. And
a flip phone.
Flip phone. Yeah, that's the kind I had. Yeah, I actually remember having a pager. You can remember those.
Speaking about pre-2000s, do you remember Fahrenheit cologne or Davidoff Cool Water?
It's Davidoff.
Excuse me, Davidoff. Sorry, you can't take the jersey out of the girl, Nigel.
I think I'm probably a Davidoff guy, but I remember the commercial, and I actually almost did the campaign as a model one time. I sort of did a bit of a campaign for them when they used multiple guys, but I was trying to be the Davidoff guy at one point. It was all like black and white, and then they turned it blue, and then it was sort of white on blue. That was the campaign for Davidoff. But actually, what I used to wear back then was Eau Sauvage Extreme by Christian Dior.
I don't remember that one, but I'm sure if I smelled it, it probably smelled delicious.
Smell.
So we have one last, which is women's 2000 fashion. And I don't know if you remember, but hip hugger denim was really in.
Really
and also baggy denim with the thong being exposed, kind of that Aaliyah type of vibe. Which were you like? Which one did you like to look at
in a woman?
I mean, they both sound good. The way you described them, I like the first one, and then I like the second one.
Okay, we can do both.
I'm a pretty easy guy when it comes to those sort of things. It either looks good or it doesn't, right? Everything can look good and everything can look bad. It really depends on how you pull it off.
So now that we've kind of taken our journey down memory lane, obviously there's a reason why we're doing this show via Zoom instead of in studio in Los Angeles like we had originally planned. We're all kind of adjusting our lives to this pandemic that's going on. And we thought people listening would love to hear about what your experience has been like with your family at home and anything that you have done to help cope with it.
I mean, it's no doubt that it's tough for people, and it's certainly in New York, it's really tough. It's been very, very badly hit, and the city is in really. When you go, if you travel there, and you go there, it's very, very quiet, and it's not New York like anyone remembers it. We're very lucky. We have a place. I'm in our home right now. upstate New York, near Woodstock, just outside. And we have a lovely house. It's on just under 5 acres, 4.6. So there's lots of space, lots of gardens for the kids to run around and play in. So we're very lucky. We feel very privileged to have this sort of space. And in a way, it's felt like a bit like a sort of Groundhog's Day for weekends. We've been trying to be active and trying to have fun and entertain ourselves and, do funny things on social media.
Yeah. I mean, being a mother myself, I am facing these challenges. I'm scheduling these interviews at nap time because my husband works full time. I'm out of work and still auditioning via Zoom. So it is definitely difficult. I have noticed some changes, and I guess for you as a father, as a husband, have you surprised yourself during this quarantine in any way? Any revelations come out of this? Because definitely for me, there has been.
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, I think everyone's sort of surprising themselves these days with their ability to do what we've done, which is quarantine. And I think it's also slightly shocking that some people seem so incapable of doing it too. I mean, there's that aspect of how people are sort of like, I can't do this, I'm going to not quarantine and put everyone's life at risk kind of thing. But I feel that, we have human beings in general have an incredible ability to rally and in times of difficulty to really rise to their best. And that's sort of so evident in what so many people have been doing, especially healthcare workers around the country. And I think that in every one of us is a healthcare worker of sorts. And it's because especially when you're a parent and you have children and you have to look after them and their needs come first no matter what, right? So you really realize, and one of the wonderful things in a way has been the fact that because you have them with you so much now, and because they're not going to school, you're looking and paying attention to the smallest of details, and you're kind of forced to. So that's been kind of wonderful, and I guess that I've been really enjoying, secretly enjoying some of this quarantining.
Well, clearly your family and you are thriving amid this time, and so Mercedes and I created a game.
What's your quarantine house of style?
Everyone has a different quarantine house of style, we've decided. And you so elegantly created your own house of style. So Nigel's house is the house of pandemia.
Because pandemia is actually how I was pronouncing
Pandemia, April, pandemia.
Yes, pandemia.
So the joke is that last year we did a lot of work on our basement. We did a basement renovation. And once the pandemic started, and everyone was on lockdown, my wife and I, Chrissy and I, would go down after dinner or whilst dinner was cooking and play a game of pool, and we would turn some music on, and we would joke with each other saying that it was like a nightclub, and that we were going to a nightclub called Pandemia.
Oh.
Welcome to Pandemia.
The categories we created, of course, were what talk show are you watching? And you said?
I said Jimmy Kimmel.
The music you're listening to is?
Well, I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff, but it depends. So in the mornings, I'm a Bob Marley guy.
Your final two answers were that your family is eating in, and you did say that you are binge watching America's Next Top Model. So have you really been revisiting the old seasons like Mercedes and I cycle at home during quarantine?
Yeah, no, like I said, it was partly because, it was actually 100% because my daughter Jasmine all of a sudden said, she was like looking through Netflix or something, and I think it was Amazon Prime or whatever it was. And she said, oh, America's Next Top Model. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, can we watch it? And I'm like, well, you've seen it, right? And she's like, I've never seen one ever. She had never seen America's Next Top Model. So I'm like, well, sure, let's start at the beginning. Let's start, And so we watched from the beginning, and she got addicted, and we all did. It was only just recently, in fact, like 2 weeks ago, watched your season 2, cycle 2. And so, it was like, we're all sitting there, and then there's that moment where I think April says something like, yeah, I like Nigel, or I think he's cute or something. And everyone, including my daughter, was like, Daddy, oh my God. And then I got slapped. And then there was like a judging, and Tyra looks at me and goes, you have the hots for April, don't you? You know, and I was like, like that. I'm like, I'm not even sure that I actually said that. I'm sorry. I apologize. I probably did, but I'm not. There were so many things that happened on that show. I can't even remember how and when things were edited, put together, that we said the things that we said. And I'm sure that you even experienced that as contestants on the show, that certain aspects of the way it was edited together, they can kind of tell whatever story they like.
Yeah. Absolutely. That was the lesson. You know, we were in such the early days of reality TV that we weren't savvy to editing. I was a journalism major. I thought we were filming a documentary. I thought everything was going to be portrayed exactly as it happened. So that was definitely a learning point for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a time capsule. It's fun to look back. And I would say, like with your daughter or your daughter's age, that she's watching this show, or maybe her friends who want to become a model in this new age of Instagram. I guess as a photographer, what qualities do you look for in a model? I mean, that's one of the most important questions we all want to know.
We're going to audition for you on this show for a reshoot. Mercedes and I want a Nigel BARKER reshoot.
Let's do it, ladies. I think it's high time. I was looking for pictures of me that you asked me to send you from that era. Right in there was pictures I shot of you, April, when you came to my studio in New York. I feel that the most inspirational thing about anybody is what they're doing with their life and how they handle themselves and how people react to them when they see their face. And so it's not necessarily certainly not about being perfect and not about being the prettiest in the room, but much more about being inspirational and being a sort of a muse. And is there kindness in your eyes, or is there a intensity in your eyes? And in what way can you speak with your eyes? Are you able to speak with your eyes? Because if you can't, then the message of the photograph is not going to resonate. And with your body language, how do you move in front of a camera? How do you move in general? Can you dance? And even if you can't dance, there's a way of talking and gesticulating and the smallest of movements, and that the minutiae of how way someone moves tells a story and puts someone at ease or puts someone on edge, and both work. So it depends what you're trying to go for. So it's very specific, but you get a vibe, don't you? Don't you? There's a reason why you found your husband attractive, or you find your boyfriend attractive, or you meet someone and there's something about them. It's chemistry. And in a way, that's what you're tapping into. You're always tapping into what is that chemistry. And in a way, it's whenever you book someone, it's because you kind of like them. And it's not necessarily in a sexual way, but there is still something a fine line between all of those things where there is that relationship that you're looking for to try and create.
Exactly. And we had a great experience being on Top Model, I guess one in a million years. I have to say that like your chemistry with April was very different than mine and yours. You want to talk about that? And I'm sure you get this question all the time about your guys' chemistry. Hold on, let me face mist. Okay. So what was it about April that was unique, or why April had such I guess she was drawn to you in certain ways?
Well, certainly it was. I think we were all a bit like it was. I think she's a beautiful woman, and was a beautiful woman and a beautiful girl then. And I also thought that she was being given a hard time and a tougher time by some of the judges. And I thought that it would be great if someone who had Asian descent might win a show like America's Next Top Model. There were so few Asian models and so few people of Asian descent, and also that her look is something that I've always found very attractive. I mean, my wife Chrissy is half Chinese and the other half is Irish, Russian, and German, so it's not a far stretch from April's combination, which is what, Japanese or something?
Half Japanese, right? German,
right.
Yeah. I always tell people the same thing, that it was such a Bermuda's Triangle combination of that your gorgeous supermodel wife is half Asian, so of course you're rooting for women that have our mix to rise in the industry. And also Mercedes and I were reminiscing about I don't even know if the judges are aware of this, but we literally went 6 weeks without the touch of a man or the voice of a man. It was women, women, women. And we reached a point where even getting mic'd in the morning by a guy, we would just linger and want their touch on us, because it had been such a long time since we got to engage with men. And so it was like the hot pot of that. And then I saw you walking in Milan one morning and I was like, oh my God, he's gorgeous. And all those elements created great television that can be edited.
They certainly did, didn't they? Well, it's funny. I often tell people when they say to me like, oh, you were great on the show, or they compliment me like you just did. They sort of said something like, "Oh, you were gorgeous," or something like that, and it's very flattering and a thank you. But I always say, look, the reality is that I was the only straight male on that show, and everybody else were female or gay, right? So I was basically a shoo-in for being the one piece of eye candy, because there was no other eye candy. It's not that I was so great; it just was I was the only option.
What advice do you give to these girls like that want to become a model? Because it's completely different now. The industry is completely changed from a photographer's point of view, of course.
Well, I mean, I think that, regardless of whose point of view it is, I mean, the world of modeling is very different. I think that certainly there's a lot more opportunity for people to become a model or try and model. And what does it mean to be a model, right? So, it used to sort of mean that you would have an agent. It would mean that you would work for magazines. It would mean that you'd work for clients that would necessarily pay you, that you might appear on a billboard, but all these things I'm talking about are printed matter, right? So the concept of the printed matter have gone. The concept of having to be represented by an agent is completely changed. Now there are agencies that are a part of Instagram, that are online apps that you can, that are completely digital, and you can be represented by sort of models.com and all these sorts of things that have nothing to do with really having a person who's looking at your book, and they're really just sites to help you be represented. And actually there are photographers agents just the same. But really what I recommend to people is to use the things like Instagram to showcase your personality, to showcase what you're about, to let people know your story. And in many cases, models have redefined who they are and what it means to be a model because of platforms like Instagram. Of course, there are people who I myself have scouted, who I've discovered in Australia, in the sort of outback, and I've seen them on social media and I've seen what they're doing, and I'm like, she's interesting, she's cool, DM, and then all of a sudden that person pops up in New York City and they're sitting in a meeting with me and I'm booking them for a job.
We're just so grateful that you so willingly came on our show, which is a passion project of ours and a dream that is coming true. And you've been so gracious and truthful and beautiful. And we really appreciate it, Nigel. And we have a fun, Mercedes and I decided we'd like to end each show with kind of a fun question that she's cooked up for you today. So I'll let her take the honors.
So if you could have a superhero power, what would it be and what would be your name?
If I could have a superhero power, well, my nickname at the dog pound is Batman. And it's actually written on the back of my t-shirt. I have a t-shirt with Batman written on across the back. I've always liked the ability to fly. If I could actually fly, would be amazing. That just for me seems to be something that would be incredible, to be able to have another perspective at the world and have a bird's eye view at what's happening. I always see birds flying and I wonder what it must be like for them to swoop through the winds and through the trees and to go around things, and how they must see everything and how the world looks so beautiful from above. And that's what my superpower would be.
And you have your pandemia cave, so it's perfect.
Bat cave for Batman. Now, so we're going to create little avatars for all of our guests as cartoons. We'll have to make sure we incorporate some wings or some kind of Batman for yours. Make it really fun for you. Yeah.
That's so cool and so mysterious and so you. Is there anything you want to promote and tell your fans about so we can have it in our video?
Well, I mean, I'm about to be relaunching my podcast, Shaken and Stirred. I may have to get you on the show, considering you're a heavy drinker. I know.
He can drink. It's crazy. I'm allergic. I'm such a lightweight. But yeah.
You do kombucha.
Before you go, my daughter Jasmine, who's a big fan of yours, wants to come and say hello. She wants to see you.
Hi.
Hi, beautiful. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Look at that hair. I'm so jelly.
Jackson, do you have any questions on the spot, totally unprepared, so she's caught off guard that you want to ask Mercedes? Anything at all? This is your interview now.
What's your favorite photo shoot?
Oh, that's really hard. There's so many good ones, but I would have to say your dad's, because I have never been painted before and he caught me in all the right angles. It's one of my most proud moments. So yeah, the Eve shoot. Well, it was a pleasure meeting you. I'm so glad that you liked the show and that you're rewatching it with your father. That's cool, and your mom. And where can we follow you, Nigel?
You can follow me at Nigel Barker on Instagram and Twitter, and on Nigel Barker Official on Facebook, and my podcast Shaken and Stirred Show. So that's you can find that out there too, and it's on Spotify and Apple Play and everything else. So thank you.
Well, we're huge fans and lucky enough to call you a friend. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yes.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.
Let's get it.